Okay, this is Lorilyn Roberts, and I just want to say welcome if you tune in. This was very impromptu, not something I hardly ever do, but today was the launch of a book that I've worked really hard on for almost a year. Um, it's Eighth Dimension Frequency, and it's a young adult fantasy, and it does connect to the Seven Dimensions series that is a 6 book series that I wrote a few years back. Um, you don't have to have read the Seven Dimensions series to read this, what will be a trilogy. Um, but if you have read it, the characters will be familiar because I used the same characters as in the Seven Dimensions series. It's just a different main character. For those of you who've read it, the main character in this trilogy is Chumana, and Judd is in it, Shale, Rachel, all those characters that were in the previous book. Uh, but I wrote it in such a way that you do not need to have read the Seven Dimensions series to know what's going on. It's a totally different plot, totally different time. Although there are a couple places where the stories overlap, but it's why it's called the Eighth Dimension. And I'll let you think about that. What is the Eighth Dimension? The other book was the Seventh Dimension. They do cover different times. So I wrote down a few questions here that people have asked me. You do not have to have read the Seventh Dimension to read the Eighth Dimension trilogy. And another question would be, why would I want to read it? Well, it has a Christian worldview. It is written in such a way that initially, because the protagonist is not a Christian, I present a lot of other arguments or thoughts or point of views. I present them as if you were not a Christian. So basically, the book is written for a non-Christian, okay? Because my desire in my heart is to reach young people for Christ. I, for one, did not grow up in a Christian home, and I don't even really know if I really knew any Christians, but a couple of times I had Christians, I guess, thought that I needed to be witnessed to for whatever reason. I guess I wasn't a very good girl at times. But I was very much turned off by that. I don't know why. I just felt I just felt a lot of condemnation. And so when I write today, I try to take things from particularly my childhood and early years. When you get to be my age, you can like say things like that because I am getting old. But I just feel like I want to write for kids that did not grow up in a Christian home, that don't have that background, that never went to church. We didn't even own a Bible until I was 8 years old, and I asked for a Bible when I was 8 years old. The strongest influence in my life as a child were the Jews, and that is why I have such a heart for the Jews, because I wanted to learn who their God was. So it's really ironic that now I'm trying to reach the Jews to show them that Jesus is their Messiah, and they just don't know it. So anyway, I asked the question, why would I want to read it? That's why I wrote it. So it's not just a Christian book. There are a lot of Christian books, but it has a very unique, I guess you could say unique audience, because I'm trying to reach unchurched, very smart kids. I was a nerd. I thought like a nerd. I'm still sort of a nerd. People that know me will tell you I'm a nerd. So I write nerdy books. So anyway, I hope that kind of explains a little bit some of the questions that come up in it. And by the way, if you have any questions, I will, want to leave comments or whatever. Hopefully I will catch those. But I wrote down some that people have asked me or have come up from time to time. And I know in the book I address a lot of these sorts of questions. For example, where did we come from? Well, I grew up in school where everybody talked, believed in evolution. I do not believe in evolution, but there are two other hypotheses presented in the book. Of course, the hypothesis that I believe in is that God created us. But you could believe in evolution. There's a third hypothesis, which is very important to the book, and that is maybe we were seeded by SEEDED by another race of people. Okay? But then you have to question, but who created that race of people? Okay, you always come back to something had to create whatever was here in the very beginning. Okay? So you still have that question. And scientists, as smart as they are, nobody has ever been able to figure out how to make a living cell, just one living cell. So that's kind of like the big question is, where did the first living cell came from? Who creates life? So I'll leave that with you. It's all are things that do come up in the book. But it goes deeper than that. And I will go to Genesis 1:1 to Genesis 1:2, where it says in the Bible, God created the heavens and the earth was without form and void. We all know that that is the normative way that it's translated from Hebrew. But the better translation of that is in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth was without, and the earth became formless and void. This is a very big point in the trilogy, is what happened between Genesis 1:1 and Genesis 1:2. So I will leave that with you, and this does come up in the book. The answer doesn't get addressed exactly in book 1. This is a trilogy, and so a lot of book 1 is laying the foundation for what is coming. But there's a lot in it. I spent almost a year writing it. It's 82,000 words. I worked very hard on character development. So I hope that the reader can identify with Chimana, with her mother, with other characters. There's a Rachel, who is Jewish, Gracie, who is British. So there are other people in the book that come from various backgrounds. But anyway, let me move on. Why am I here? Like, if are you just here by random? I mean, there doesn't seem to be a lot of value in randomness. You know what I mean? I think the picture is much bigger than randomness. I think that we are each created in God's image, and God's image is unique to the human race. He created us in his image. There is no reference in the Bible to any other thing that he created that is in his image. And I've heard some people say, well, the angels are in God's image. Show it to me in the Bible. I can't find it, and believe me, I've looked for it. So, why am I here? I think we're here because God wanted a family. He had a family in heaven with the angels. He wanted a family here on earth. And so he created us in his image, is his younger children. Okay, we're all God's children, and there's value in that. I love my animals, I love my cats and my dogs, and I love all of God's creation, but only humans are created in God's image. And so as image bearers, I believe we need to live like image bearers, and that means we need to be able to show God's love toward animals, toward all of his creatures. So there's a hierarchy. One thing about God is there is a hierarchy, and so we need to consider that. So where am I going? Okay, I just think that when you're young, you don't tend to think that way until you get older, and then you realize how quickly the time goes by. I remember, I'll just share this. I remember when I was putting my ex-husband through medical school, which was a lot of work. It took 4 years, and I was doing court reporting at the time, and we were getting close to his finishing, and we were watching some documentary on something, but it made me think about Jesus's return, and I remember thinking, well, I don't want him to come back yet. I want to reap some of the benefits of all my hard work putting my husband through medical school. And I think when you're young, you tend to not realize the greatness of heaven. We think that we can make heaven here, and we can't. We just don't know what the future holds, and heaven is going to be so much more, so much better, so much bigger, so much greater. I mean, if there was nothing else in heaven but Jesus, just imagine the greatness of that, the person who died for us on the cross. And and I have someone who likes to follow me on Facebook, and she doesn't believe that Jesus died for us on the cross. And you could say, well, where's the evidence? Okay, so let me answer it this way. If Jesus didn't die on the cross, we have no gospel, right? When Jesus died on the cross, and they put him in they put him in the tomb, which was like a cave. It's like one of those. I've been to Israel and saw what could possibly be his burial cave. Something moved the stone. Okay, it was empty. Okay, so when they found the tomb was empty, all those soldiers, Roman soldiers, they were scouring the countryside trying to find his body. Okay, I mean, it was like Pontius Pilate could have just had them all executed, the guards that supposedly were guarding the tomb. So, it's like they never found the body. I was recently listening to a dentist, and he was saying he would be called in to try to identify bodies from teeth. And he was saying the hardest thing in the world is to hide a dead body. You try to put them under the ocean, they float up to the surface. I mean, it's just very, very difficult. So I know if Jesus wasn't raised from the dead, they would have found his body. I have no doubt, but they didn't. In addition, the Bible says, I believe it's somewhere in Corinthians, I believe, that first he appeared to the women, then he appeared to his disciples, and then he appeared to a bunch of people, like a couple of hundred people on the Sea of Galilee after his resurrection. So there were many, many eyewitness accounts who actually saw him alive after he was crucified. I mean, what else do you need? I mean, to me, that is just that there's nothing anywhere that ever has any solid evidence that he was not resurrected, and that he because he was seen by so many people. All the disciples, they died. They were executed in horrific ways. They were persecuted. Why would Satan want to do all of that for no reason? Satan was trying to shut them up because he knew that if the truth was let out that Jesus had been resurrected, then he could possibly prevent Jesus from coming back. That's why there's so much anti-Semitism in the world. It's not between you and me and them and they. It's a battle that's going on in the heavenlies between God and Satan. And I think that's the one thing my book brings out, that the battle is so much bigger. It is so much bigger than just us. We are just part of the battle. And I don't think people appreciate how big it is. And as far as, there's another thing that comes up in the book, it's about time. People tend to adopt, well, the earth is, it was created in 7 days, or the other view is, well, it took millions of years to create it. And the two views really seem contradictory, right? Well, they're not contradictory. I believe they are both true. And once I read this by a pastor, I think his last name is Bornhouse, it blew me away. I believe, and I'm pretty sure I can't, sometimes I read things and then I extrapolate a little bit and come up with, maybe I take it further than what they actually said based on my own research. But I believe time began when Satan sinned. Because if you think of the Bible says in the beginning, God in the beginning was the Word. God is Alpha and the Omega. So God was here outside of time. There was no time before in the beginning. And then there will be no time in the end, because it's just eternity past, eternity future. So time is linked to sin. So I believe the earth is millions and millions of years old, okay? But time doesn't start ticking until Satan fell and took 1/3 of the angels with him. And that's when time began. So in my opinion, they're both true. And so that question does come up in the book. I'm telling you, this is it's deep. It's not, if you want something whimsical that's fun and merry and then this is not the book for you. I will challenge you to evaluate what you think about deep things. Okay, this is serious stuff, because I truly believe the Lord's return is near. And I think, you can't just be sitting on the fence. You got to make a decision. Do I believe Jesus died for me, or do I not believe Jesus died for me? Because we don't know how much time we have. And I'm an 8-year cancer survivor. I just had my 8-year follow-up, and it was like, I told the person that was seeing me in follow-up, you live a fine line when you're a cancer survivor. You know it could always come back. There's never any doubt that it could return, but you also don't want to live with fear, because Jesus cast out that fear. If we give all of our burdens to him, he cast out the fear. So you live your life for the glory of God, and you live knowing that you are a cancer survivor, but you don't focus on that. But you know what? We are all mortal. We're not immortal. So we may not live the full length of 70 or 80 years that the Bible talks about. Anything could happen. So I think, we need to live with that perspective and make the most of each day. And that's why I write. I'm trying to reach young people. I'm trying to show people that we don't know how much time we have. And, I think all of this is to reconcile ourselves with Christ. All of us have been hurt by people. All of us have failed in our own life. But Jesus knows that, and that's all covered on the cross. So we don't need to live in condemnation, and we need to be able to release those that have hurt us. And I do it through writing, because people could relate to a lot of things in my life. They can relate to the fact that I've had cancer. They can relate to the fact that my ex-husband had an affair and got his girlfriend pregnant after I spent 4 years putting him through medical school, and the hurt and the pain and all of that. I couldn't have children. I adopted my 2 wonderful, awesome children that I love so much. To me, it's just an image of God adopting us as his children. I mean, everything in my life, I try to turn it back so that people are focused on God, not on me, so they can see the love of God. They can see God's greatness. And so in my writing, I try to bring that out, particularly for young people. Anyway, I need to move on. It looks like I've been going for about 20 minutes. I want to keep this to under 30. One thing I want to do is take it just a little bit further. Obviously, if you've seen the video that I did, there are UFOs in the book. And the question is, who are they? Okay? I believe, and this is my personal opinion, there is soon going to be disclosure. Okay? I think the government, not only the U.S. government, but all around the world, they've been hiding these things. They don't want the people to know. And I don't know that they even know what it is. So that comes up. It's a topic in the book. The story kind of goes into that area, and I'll let you read the book to learn more, because I don't completely answer the question in this book. There's 2 more books to follow, but it's very much a supernatural book, and it's dealing basically with good and evil. Okay, it's good and evil, and there's a great deal of deception for the protagonist. And so one of the things I worried about is I had so much deception in the book. I thought, well, I hope I don't even deceive the believers. But that is how much power God has given Satan. He has given Satan right now the power to deceive. And I've been deceived about things that I'm like, wow, I can't believe, in various ways. Sometimes it's very hard to admit that we were deceived. It can be humiliating. It humbles us. But a lot of the book deals with deception. And so I just throw that out. It's not clear-cut, nice, sweet Christian book. That's not what this is. It's parts of it are very suspenseful. Parts of it are scary. So I just, I don't recommend for anybody under 12 years old. I'll put it that way. 13 and up, I think it's good, because you get the Hollywood version, right? The problem with the Hollywood version is there's no redemption. In everything that I write, there is always God's redemption. Always, always, always. Okay? I mean, I can't write without having that in there, because God's in the business of bringing redemption. Everything that Satan has done to disrupt, to corrupt, God wants to redeem it for his glory. So before I end this, I've got a few minutes left. Because so much of the book is about ham radio, I want to talk a little bit about ham radio. First of all, if you homeschool, ham radio is an excellent way to introduce your kids to many things that come up in ham radio. Now, the easiest way to first get into it is getting one of these handheld ones. I'll tell you a little quick story here. I am a prepper. I've got, stuff set aside in case everything goes kaput and we have to rely on ourselves to provide, we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, the world's kind of crazy, right? So anyway, my brother-in-law said, you need to get one of these. So I ordered it off of Amazon. I think they're about $60, something like that. And when I got it, I looked at it, I'm like, what do I do with this thing? And then I looked at it further and I thought, hey, I had to have a license to use this thing. I was totally clueless about ham radio. So on a whim, on a weekend, I took a course and I took the test the following Monday, did very little studying, didn't even think I would pass it, and I made an 85. And I'm like, wow, I can do this. I've never done anything like this in my life. I'm a creative person. I'm not really a tech person like this. So, but I did get hooked. But the thing is, with these little ones, you can get licensed to use these with just a tech license, but they're only good for local. And I was like, well, suppose we lose power, suppose we lose phones, suppose we lose satellites. How am I going to know what's going on in Georgia? And I live in Florida, and my family were up in Georgia. So I went ahead and got my general license. And then it took some time to get the radio, and I'm going to show you that radio here in a second. I thought, well, I'll just go ahead and get my extra. So I went ahead and got my extra. And then I got to thinking, this is fun, but what's CW all about? So I started looking into CW, and I learned all the letters, and I just totally got hooked. CW is fun, and I taught it for a couple of years at a local school here, and the kids loved it. So if you homeschool, try to, think about ham radio. It's a lot of math, a lot of science, all sorts of stuff, and you can make it practical. I homeschooled for both my daughters for over 10 years at various points between elementary school to high school, and I wish I had known about something like this, because I would have done it. The one thing I never wanted to do when I homeschooled was make it boring. And so I worked very hard. Well, there's a lot in ham radio. I don't think you'll be bored. You'll be constantly challenged because it's like, there's so much to it, and then you can kind of pick what area you like. So anyway, I'll turn this on, and you can kind of, it gives you that. You communicate with this on the repeater, and I'm going to show you a little bit of CW here. But anyway, this is where you get started, and you can get one of these for $60. The courses, I think, are free, maybe $15 or something for them, but it's not a huge expense. And one of the things that comes up in the book is Jemana is challenged with ham radio. Okay, I won't go into all the details, but she has to jump through, a certain criteria here because she has a very important role to play when something happens in the book. Okay, and so she started with the tech, then got her general, then got her extra. Sounds like me. And then she got her CW. So I've got my radio here. I don't know if I can angle it around a little bit and kind of get a look, but this is let me get rid of my coffee here. This is what I have an ICOM 7300, but any of these radios are good. This is that's CQ. The guy is sending CQ. He's trying to call for someone to answer his call, and that's all he's doing. He's sending dits and dahs. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to I'm going to send something here. I'm going to put it someplace where nobody else is sending, and it's what I call oscillating, so it's not actually going out. See, they're all sending CQ. Okay. Let's see if I can turn me up and turn that down. That's my call sign, KO4LBS. When you get into ham radio, let me send it a couple times. KO4LBS. Everybody has a call sign, and that's how you communicate, is using your call sign. So it takes a while to really get proficient, a couple of months to learn the letters, and then you build up your speed, and I'm working at about 25 words per minute now. But CW ends up playing a very important role in the book, and part of my goal in this is to get more young people into ham radio and CW. I mean, phones are great. Internet is great. We didn't even have the internet when I was growing up. But let me just share something with you here. In 2029, there is and this has been, you can look this up on NASA. There is a meteor, or I guess it's a comet, that will come close to Earth, closer than our geostationary communications satellites. Okay, what that means is if this thing is going to come so close, it could actually disrupt all of our communication satellites around the Earth. Okay, in Egyptian mythology, Apophis, that's the name of this comet, was a serpent and the enemy of Ra, the sun god. Now I'm just going to go down a little rabbit trail here. When I homeschooled, I thought as a Christian that, the Greek gods, the Roman gods, all these gods, that they were just made up. Unfortunately, the church, I think, has done a disservice by not really addressing some of these questions. I mean, that's a lot for people to make up. I think when you go back, and I've done a lot of research on this, these they're not fake gods, okay? These relate to the fallen angels. Remember, 1/3 of the angels fell, okay? And then later on, you had the situation of the Nephilim, where there were other angels that left their first estate. And I'm not going to get into all of that. There are books and books and books that have been written about that. But I thought this is interesting. I mean, I just copied this. It's probably some AI thing, but it says here, in Egyptian mythology, Apophis was a serpent and the enemy of Ra, the sun god. Now, I find it interesting that you have all these different gods, and you know, just like I know from watching, Hercules and all these, what were the gods always doing? They were always fighting each other. Always. They were trying to do this and do that and being charged and all of that. Does that kind of remind you of something like Satan? The disruptor, chaos, disorder? Okay, these mythological characters, there was a basis for them, okay? And all Moses did when he wrote this, he was writing after the fact, after the Sumerians and all of in Babylon and all these early civilizations, they wrote about these gods like they were great, okay? It's point of view here, okay? They worshipped them because they thought they were God, but they weren't. They were the fallen angels. When you read Moses's account, and you can kind of get more into it when you read like some of the Apocrypha books. I know they're not inspired, but they do. Some of the books do tie into things that you read in the New Testament, like in the book of Jude. They validate these fallen angels that were worshipped by these other civilizations. But in the book of Genesis, they are not praised. They are said for what they are. They were fallen angels. They left the first estate. So anyway, this is going to be all addressed in my book, in the part of the story. That's all I'm going to say about that. But as I have said, there is a lot to this book. And today was the launch. I'm at 32 minutes. I don't want this to go any longer, so I'm going to end it here. But the price will go up on September 11th. I'm giving away 100 books on Goodreads. So you could go and you can enter that drawing. You can enter it on my website or just go to Goodreads and you can find it. Once that ends on September 10th, I'm raising the price to $9.99 just because of the hundreds of hours I have put into the research, and I'm wanting to focus on the second book. So I can't just sell these things for practically nothing anymore. I can't do it. I feel like that's not what God wants me to do. So anyway, if you have any questions after you watch this video, you can post them on Facebook, or you can email me or message me, however you want to get in touch with me. I will say that I'm not supported by a major publisher, and that's intentional on my part. So I appreciate everybody who buys my books, because that's I need y'all to really share, to help me get it out there. And so whatever you can do, just sharing it. If you read it and you like it, please leave a good review. If you don't like it, don't waste your time writing a poor review. It's a waste of time on your part, and it doesn't help me at all. And it can at times be very discouraging. And so just think of me and being up at 3 and 4 in the morning writing and praying to God to help me write what He wants me to write. It really has been a journey for me. But thank you for listening, if you've listened this far. And my book is available across the web. You don't have to get it on Amazon. If you're not an Amazon fan, you can go to my website and download it from PayHip and just PayPal. Thank you again, and thanks for listening. And I'm going to end this live stream, and I'm going to check out like my ham radio operator, 73 KO4 LBS, Kilo Oscar 4 Lima Bravo Sierra.